dad's dream to talk about his favorite team with the son of digging the stats. Come and join us, nerding on the Dbacks.
Hello, welcome to Nerding on the Dbacks.
The best
And only
father-son baseball show.
in America.
That's right. They don't got this in Belize.
Better please that.
Well played. Well played. You know what's crazy? Belize is a country in South America, and it's the only country in South America that English is the primary language.
Huh.
Yeah.
So we could travel there and speak fluently.
Yep, we could just talk. Yeah, everyone speaks Spanish in Belize. English. They probably speak Spanish too. I mean, they're surrounded by Spanish-speaking countries, but they speak English as their primary language.
Huh.
It's kind of, it's unusual. So,
Don't stop Belize.
that is also very clever. So, if you're joining us, which you are if you're listening to this right now, please like, comment, subscribe. If you're on Spotify, you can actually comment now on this individual episode. We will make sure to get back to you. And then rate, review, please, and no matter what platform you're on. And of course, channel your inner kindergartner and
Share.
yeah. So if you're joining us for the first time, rather than discuss individual games or series, we kind of look at the big picture, where they are in the season and where they're headed. And we really focus more on performance than production. So that's our Dbacks show. We always like to kick it off with a little update on personal life. So we talked a little bit about it before, but we had some vacay fun last week with all our family, 11 of us under one roof. And I'm not sure about this, but I hooked up. My parents made this, or my dad made this comment anyway. We hooked up their MLB TV package because they weren't sure how to do it, but now they're getting blacked out. They live in Minnesota. They're getting blacked out of Twins games, even though it's not on TV. It's the weirdest thing. Minnesota has got the Twins have got the worst TV thing going on in baseball right now. It's so bizarre. But I hooked it up, and they're like, well, since we can't watch Twins games, I guess we're going to become Diamondbacks fans now.
Yeah.
And so we'll see.
That's what you all should say.
Yeah. So we're going to try to convert them to Diamondbacks fans. I'm definitely going to be discussing Dbacks with my pops a little bit more now on future conversations.
And
that's going to be awesome.
He's going to get on the pod now.
Hopefully he knows some of what's going on. It would be great. And but yeah, we're a little late on this particular recording. We usually do Thursday afternoons, but because the little man had a doctor's appointment, which involved getting a needle put into his arm for a blood draw. We didn't get to record yesterday, so we're doing this Friday morning. You're probably not going to get it till after the game against the Cubs, but that's okay. They kick off their season here in about 40 minutes, and 40 or 50 minutes. And so, but the little man's appointment didn't go so well. I don't know if you have kids or you were a kid, you remember any of this. He needs to get some blood tests. And so they stuck the needle in his arm and no blood came out. And so they started moving the needle around in his arm, and he was crying so hard. It was so painful to watch and be a part of. And they tried to move the needle around for about 30 seconds or so. Can you imagine? Have you ever had something like that? Having a needle, they just shove the needle in his arm, and then they're sitting there and moving around. Doesn't that sound super painful? Yeah.
I haven't heard about this story, but that sounds...
I've had a lot of blood draws in my life. I don't recall that ever happening to me. So that was awful. And they didn't get any blood. I was just like, you know what? We're going to reschedule and go somewhere else where hopefully they can poke him a little bit better and because he's done that he's had blood draws, I don't know, half a dozen times now in his young life. And that's the first time that they ever struggled to get any blood out. So that part sucked. It didn't go well.
Weird.
But you know what did go well?
D-backs.
Yeah, D-backs final week before the All-Star break. They went 4-3, and they are now over 500. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We are all cheering. We are now all fans of a winning ball club in 2024.
Oh, I thought I'd never see this day.
It's been a long slog. So, those final 13 games played out better than I expected. I actually predicted that they would go 7-6 over their last 13 games. If you remember on our Did You Really Just Say That show, and they ended up going 8-5, which is awesome. They went 4-2 on that road trip versus the Dodgers and Padres, which we discussed on our last recap show. And then, but I just wanted to mention again, it's incredible to win games on the road versus division opponents like the Padres and Dodgers. Dodgers up obviously ahead of them in the standings. They're tied with the Padres, and essentially, if they can win the season series against the Padres, and the two teams end up tied at the end of 162 games, the D-backs will have the tiebreaker, which means that it could potentially get them into that was really awkward.
What is going on?
I don't know. I think Ma started the car up. If you're familiar with this, my car automatically syncs to the Bluetooth in the car whenever it gets started up, and I think that's what happened. And then it switched back to my phone and was playing. Very strange. Anyway, so
crazy.
So
Anyways.
if they end up tied for that third wild card spot by record, D-backs will get it. That's really awesome.
Yeah.
And then
they're gonna get it. Maybe.
So yeah, could be crucial coming down to the end of the season. And then they split a 4-game series with the Braves, which is a really good outcome. The Braves are a fantastic team. Definitely one of the, I would probably say they're one of the 3 best teams in the National League. There's the Phillies, and then on a tier of their own as number 1, and then there's the Dodgers and Braves. And if you want to include the Brewers in there, you could. I don't know if I would, but so that was a big. They split at home, which I always say, 4-game series. It seems like 90% of them turn out to be a split, and that's exactly what happened. And then they won 3 games versus the Blue Jays heading into the break, which was awesome. And so to discuss who helped us go 4-3 over that homestand heading into the All-Star break, here is Phoenix with his Who's Hot and Who's Not.
Yeah.
Woo! And what do we always start with first? Because we like the good news.
We start with the hot guys.
Yeah.
I said it's getting hot in here. So hot.
Woo, that was loud.
That was loud.
May not be as loud to you, but that was super loud in here.
Yeah.
So, tell us.
Mom's gonna be confused. So I'm gonna start with the pitchers.
Yeah.
For the starting pitcher, I put Ryne Nelson, not Ryan. Ryne Nelson.
Ooh, Ryne.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. 13.2 innings pitched. 4 runs all earned. 10 strikeouts, 1 walk, and 1 home run.
Yeah, Ryne. You know what's kind of crazy? Ryne is a name. Do you know anybody named Ryne?
Oh,
personally?
D-backs pit.
Yeah, in your personal life, do you have any friends? You ever met anybody? Dads, brothers, anybody? Nope.
I mean, I think I met a guy named Ryan, but not
Ryan.
Ryne.
Yeah. So I've never met anybody named Ryne either, but there's 2 players in Major League Baseball named Ryne, and there's 4 guys in the minors named Ryne. Now, here's the crazy part. There was the first Ryne I'd ever heard of was a dude named Ryne Sandberg, right? Ryne Sandberg. And he
sounds like a super villain.
He was that's funny. He was a Hall of Fame second baseman for the Cubs, who were playing this weekend, and you'll probably hear Ryne Sandberg mentioned on the game today here on Friday because Ryne Nelson is pitching, and and so
It's all fitting together.
Ryne Sandberg doesn't play. He retired in like 1993 or something like that was his last season, but he's in the Hall of Fame. And ever since then, I imagine, like, if you think about Ryne Nelson, who's 25 years old, that means back in, like, he was born in 1999, 2000, somewhere around there, right? And so Ryne, there's a lot of kids who are the children, a lot of boys who are the children of baseball fans who named their kid Ryne.
Huh.
It's like how there's a lot more kids these days in their 20s named Jordan than there was
Before Michael Jordan.
30 years ago. Yeah. Yep. So that's kind of cool that and so I think because Ryne is a very uncommon name in the United States in general, but if you name your kid Ryne, you're almost certainly a baseball fan. And that means those kids were probably pushed a little harder to go into baseball. And so there's a disproportionate number of Rynes represented in affiliated Major League Baseball than there is in the population at large.
Yeah.
What a fun story, huh?
That's
All right.
a lot of Ryne.
That's my Ryne Nelson story.
I guess that's why there's a lot of people named Tom.
Actually, we're going to come back to Ryne, but named what?
A lot of people named Tom.
Oh, yeah. Tom's an old school name. That might be like early settler name, too.
Bryant.
Bryant is probably not an early settler name.
Kobe.
Definitely not. Okay.
All right. For our relieving pitchers, we got Kevin Ginky, the Gink Machine, Ginkle, Ginkler, the
Ooh.
Gink Machine, the Gink and the Stink,
The Ginkalandi.
the Ginkalande, the Pope. He has 4 innings pitched, 1 run, 1 earned. He has 8 strikeouts, 0 walks, and 1 home run hit on him.
Yeah. Yeah, he had a great week. I know he gave up that solo shot, but, I mean, altogether, his pitching was fantastic. So, good job, Gink. Woo! All right, Suarez. Because everybody knows, I mean, if you're watching this show, you know what Suarez has done. But let's talk a little bit about it.
Well, for the hitters, I'm just going to say this. We got Gino Suarez as our number 1 hot hitter.
Hot boy.
His OPS is very funny. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, 1.234.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
Don't
pretty
use
funny.
that password, kids.
Yeah, only for your OPS. Now, he has 3.2 plate appearances.
3.2.
32 plate appearances, 2 doubles, 0 triples, and 4 home runs,
In 7 games.
3 walks, 9 runs, 14 RBIs, and 0 stolen bases.
Yeah, I think Gino might have actually knocked in every single run for the Diamondbacks during the last 7 games. He was just on fire. Rad. We're going to talk about him too.
So for the other hot hitter, we got Gatel Mate, and his OPS is pretty funny too, 1.123.
Yeah, that is good. I like it. Go ahead and use that for your password.
I didn't do this on purpose. I'm not I didn't pick the ones that went in order like 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
It just happened.
Yeah.
So he has 29 plate appearances, 0 doubles, 0 triples, 2 home runs, 4 walks, 5 runs, 6 RBIs, and 2 stolen bases.
Yeah, not a lot of counting stats in there for, like, didn't have a lot of runs, didn't have a lot of RBI, but for the offense he produced, man, was he good. Yeah, and I mean, he's been so good all season. He's still, I mean, I got to imagine he and Bryce Harper are, 1 and 2 right now for favorites to win the MVP in the National League, which is pretty rad that Ketel Marte has got such a great shot. So, all right. Now, we got to go to the bad news. All right. What do we got here, Phoenix?
For
Give us the downers.
Jesus Christ, my throat is so messed up today. For the starting pitcher, I sadly have to say it is Zach Gallen for this one. He has 9 innings pitched, 12 runs, 10 earned runs, 5 strikeouts, 2 walks, and 2 home runs.
Yeah, that's really just one bad start. He did pretty good in the first start of that week, but wow, he just got absolutely destroyed in that second start.
He came back to earth.
Yeah, so
Hard.
all in all, Gallen's having a very, very good season. He has not been quite as sharp as he was last season. He's not putting up a Cy Young contender kind of season, though I wouldn't be surprised if he still gets like some down ballot votes if somebody votes him as like the 8th or 9th best starter on the year in the National League. But he's just not been, contending for literally the Cy Young. But he's been very, very solid. Still been, when healthy, the best pitcher in the Diamondbacks rotation.
Okay. For the relieving pitcher, I have Paul Sewald.
Ooh, second week in a row, too.
Yeah. Gino can tell him about that. He has 4 innings pitched, 2 runs, all earned, 3 strikeouts, 0 walks, and 1 home run.
Yeah, and he had some. He is, the All-Star break came at the right time for Paul Sewald. He seems like a guy whose arm just needs a little bit of a break before he rejoins the rotation or gets back at saving games for the D-backs. He's got it in him. He's obviously fantastic, but really rough stretch for Sewald. All right, let's talk about this. Part is crazy to me after the week he had to start July.
Yeah.
Your ice hitters?
Yeah, I have such a messed up throat. I'm so sorry for the people listening. My throat is just so whack. So, for the ice hitters, we got Christian Walker. I bet everybody who is listening just went, what? Or maybe not, or they were just like, oh, okay. For the OPS, we got .602. He has 36 plate appearances, 1 double, 0 triples, 0 home runs, 7 walks, though. I thought that was pretty crazy. He has 1 run, 2 RBIs, and 0 stolen bases.
Yeah, I imagine after the hot streak that he went on, I don't know this, but there was probably a little bit more of a concerted effort by opposing pitchers to not give him pitches to hit. When you hit 5 home runs in 3 games, usually teams are going to start to be a lot more careful around you on that kind of hot streak. And so he still walked constantly, and it kept his OPS afloat. I mean, a 602 OPS is not a bad week. It's a down week, but it's not a bad week. So that's great to hear. It's a reason why the D-backs
I don't think it's because of him. I don't think it's oh my God, my voice cleared up. I don't think it's because of Christian Walker. I think it's because of the pitchers and how they changed their strategy.
Their approach to him. Yep, you're exactly right. Yeah. I mean, they'll probably get back to kind of pitching him normally again here after the All-Star break, when he hasn't been just, the best hitter in baseball for 3 games. But when you're dialed in like that, you usually want to take a little bit more care with a hitter.
Yeah.
That's a thing. So, yeah, go ahead. This one makes us very, very sad.
Yes, all of us, I bet. But, it's not sad. My voice is okay now. So, for the last ice hitter, we got Lourdes Gurriel Jr.
Oh, bummer.
Now, if you didn't go at the first one, you better have gone at the second one.
Lourdes, this is, tell him the line.
All right, for Lourdes Gurriel Jr., he has .408 OPS, 23 plate appearances, 0 doubles, 0 triples, 0 home runs, 1 walk, 1 run, and 2 RBIs, and 1 stolen base.
Yeah. Yeah, not a good. That is a legitimately bad week.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is who Lourdes is. Lourdes goes a week or two of hitting like 500 OPS, and then he'll go like 2 or 3 weeks of hitting 900, and he just kind of bounces back and forth, and usually it results in like a 800-ish OPS on the season, and so that's kind of what he is. And he definitely, after getting kind of hot for June, especially those last few weeks of June, he was pretty hot. He just cooled off pretty hard.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's another symptom of guys go through more hot and cold streaks when they swing a lot. Like Gurriel doesn't walk much. He doesn't take a lot of pitches. He's up there to hit the ball. He's not up there to get on base necessarily. And so when you swing more, if your swing's just a little off, you're going to get a lot more outs. But when your swing is going well and you swing a lot, you're going to get a lot of hits. And so it's the nature of guys. Like Christian Walker will rarely go through streaks. Jock Peterson will rarely go through streaks where he's hot and like super hot, super cold, because those guys are there to get on base. They are taking pitches. They are making the pitcher work. They're only swinging at strikes. They're not expanding the zone. They're not swinging at everything. They're not even swinging at. So I don't know how many of you know this. Just because a pitch is a strike doesn't mean a hitter is swinging at it necessarily or wants to swing at it. A lot of times, really good hitters, Gurriel probably is not this way. Gurriel, anything that looks like a strike, Gurriel's swinging at. Christian Walker, until he has 2 strikes on him, Christian Walker, I don't know what he's looking for, but Christian Walker may specifically just be looking for a fastball on the inner half. And that's it. And if it's not a fastball on the inner half, if he gets thrown a fastball for a strike that's on the outer half, he's just not going to swing at it, even though it's a strike, because that's not the pitch that he's wanting to hit. And so typically a lot of guys, they'll look for specific zones and or pitches until they get 2 strikes. And then once they get 2 strikes, they'll expand and cover the whole zone. And they'll swing at anything that looks like a strike, but they'll start off only swinging at a strike that is in the area they're looking for or the type of pitch they're looking for.
All right.
Yeah.
So that's it for this segment.
Yeah. Good job, Phoenix.
I'm still waiting on that Lourdes Gurriel jersey.
Yeah. It's coming.
I'm being super impatient.
I don't know this. They updated us saying that it's either gonna be here on Saturday or on Monday. Yeah.
I can't be here tomorrow.
Tomorrow is Saturday.
Why can't it be here today?
Maybe they surprise us. So I want to get on to talking about, he didn't make your list of cold guys, which I was kind of expecting. So Slade Cecconi. Slade had we talked about it. He had a solid June. His ERA wasn't great, but everything under the hood, we'll call it, looked absolutely excellent, hinting at a turnaround coming. And then he got 2 July starts, and he just crashed and burned so hard. So hard. It resulted in him actually getting sent back down to AAA before the All-Star break. And there's a fair chance he gets called back up. So it was probably more, well, we're not going to start him again before the All-Star break, so let's send down Slade. He has an option. This is the kind of thing that teams do. Let's send down Slade because he has an option, and for the last 4 games of the season before the All-Star break, and we're going to call up a bullpen arm, so we have 9 guys in our bullpen. We just want an extra arm out there. So a lot of teams will do stuff like that if the starting pitcher has an option, and so. Slade is eligible to come back. He may come back for one more start next week, but he's so frustrating. Like, he still had a super low walk rate, but unlike in June where he was striking a lot of guys out, he barely struck anyone out in those 2 games here in July, and there were a lot of hard hit balls. His K rate is passable though, and his walk rate is absolutely elite. Like, he walks guys at such a low rate. It's incredible. He's so good at not giving out free passes. That said, I have a feeling his stuff is not that good. His strikeout to walk rate is really good, and it indicates a lot of potential, but there's so much hard contact. And I think his stuff's not great, and he's throwing too many strikes that the ball gets hit hard. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Guys know that they're going to have to go up there swinging against Slade Ciccone. He's not going to give out free passes. You're not going to get a walk to first very often, and his stuff's not that great, and so he gets hit. Despite, his stuff actually does grade out well, according to, for some of you who don't know what this is, I don't even know if I've talked with you about this. There's a stuff. Have you ever heard of Stuff Plus metrics? Okay, so they take, why don't you say that? Don't just shake your head.
What?
Do you know, have we ever talked about Stuff Plus metrics?
I don't think so.
Okay, there we go.
I don't think we.
Not everyone's watching. We got to verbalize for the pod.
Sorry.
And so
I'm just scared to talk because of my voice.
Yeah.
Being old man.
So the Stuff Plus metric is every team has this internally, and there's kind of two.
What do you mean by internally? Like not out in the public?
Mm-hmm. So every team rates their pitchers based on some sort of, they call it like modeling based on how much movement a pitch has, how fast it is, what direction it moves, and what's the tunneling. So like if you throw a curveball and you throw a fastball, I don't know if you guys ever looked at Pitching Ninja out there. If you've ever seen him,
I've not.
He'll layer videos of one pitcher throwing two different pitches to the same batter and one at bat, and both the pitches for the first like 30 feet to home are in the exact same spot. And then like he'll throw a fastball that like tails off to the right, and then he'll throw a slider. And so like the pitches are coming in at the exact same spot until they get to about halfway to home, and then they split apart. And so when you're a batter, when you're a pitcher, you want to keep your tunneling the same so that your pitches look like they are the exact same pitches coming out of your hand, no matter what you throw. It makes it harder to pick up, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't pitch modeling or pitch grades, if you will. Pitch Plus is what Saris's tool is called. That's how he refers to it. Like he said, he got the idea from basically all of the teams in the league do this internally. They've got their own metric system, but it's an algorithm that takes all of that stuff. He said the one thing that it doesn't really incorporate very well, it takes like how close you release the pitch to home, whether you're releasing from 55 feet or 53 feet, just arm angle, everything. And it puts it into an algorithm and spits it out. And he said the one thing that it doesn't include very well is deception. And so maybe that's an issue with Slade, because his pitch grades actually, or his Pitch Plus actually comes out decently well. Now, that's largely because his location is really good. His stuff is okay, but it shouldn't be so bad that it's getting hit the way that it does. So who knows? Like, he's been kind of an enigma.
You're close there. What I think of, like what you're talking about, like the ninja thing, sometimes I feel like they'll like show it in the MLB, like when they're casting a baseball game, they'll show like, they'll have a list of like the different pitches, and then they'll have like the color matches. Yeah. And then you could see like where they have all landed. Yep. And I don't think I've looked at like when it parts before. Yeah. I've always just not looked because I just thought it was just telling us the pitches of what he's throwing. No, it's very cool, especially like if you've ever gone on and looked at Pitching Ninja, go do it if you haven't. Like it's very cool to see the way that these
pitchers are able to manipulate the ball. It's part of the. I mean, they're so good now.
So is it a website or is it
Or is it
YouTube?
He might have a website. He probably posts on YouTube Shorts, I'm sure. His name is Rob Friedman. And then he also he posts primarily on X. That's where I see him all the time. And so, yeah, it's cool to see that. And so I don't know where Slade is, where Slade's going to go from here. Like, he's clearly one of the top 5 healthy starting pitchers in the org right now. But the issue is that he's about to slide down one more peg on that list with Jordan Montgomery coming back from injury here. And he might be running out of opportunities to start baseball games for the Dbacks in 2024. And I don't know if they're gonna once they put, I can't imagine until they get more of their pitchers back, like until you get at least one of Rodriguez or Kelly coming back. I can't imagine moving Slade into the bullpen because you want to keep him stretched out in case. I mean, here's the thing. Do you know pitchers break?
No.
Yeah, at an alarming rate. And so, I mean, just look at it right now. Every of the D-backs top 6 starting pitchers, right? Brandon Pfaadt is the only one who has not gone on the injured list this season. Now, to be fair, Ryan Nelson went on the injured list because he got hit by a baseball, and that's a little different than having an injury per se. Like, yeah, that's unusual. So I'm willing to
the chances of that are like very slim to none.
Yeah, it doesn't happen to a lot of pitchers. Don't get hit by a baseball and end up injured because, I mean, just a lot of pitchers don't get hit by baseballs. It's remarkable that they don't get hit more often.
In Super Mega Baseball that I play, a lot of pitchers get hit by baseballs.
This is true, yeah, because the funny animation, they kind of control that a little bit.
Yeah.
And
sometimes I have a little fun and hit the batters, but
So you never know. You kind of got to keep Slade stretched out because he might be needed. I mean, he might be needed in July already again. It could very well happen. But that said, like I said, his opportunities are running low. Now you got the next wave of starting pitchers coming up behind him, which was interesting. So I want to go into this. You got Christian Mena, who's quite a bit younger than him, who just got a start. He didn't look ready, but he might be next year. And so I don't know how many opportunities Slade's still going to have. Yolber Diaz, who is absolutely fantastic and is very, very good in his first 2 starts. And we're going to talk about more. Yumin Lin, who is their top pitching prospect by most scouts out there, like scouting organizations that put together prospect lists. He's typically been their best starting pitcher prospect. And then Dylan Ray is another starting pitcher who has been picking up steam in the minors this season now that he's fully healthy. So yeah, Slade might get passed on the depth chart and may end up just as a relief pitcher unless he really turns it around somewhere. Plus, you got Ryan Nelson here, and as you said, he was the hot pitcher for the last week for the D-backs, and he is looking like he's really locking in that 6th spot on the starting pitcher depth chart when everyone's healthy. His FIP.
What do you mean? I kind of forgot what FIP means. I remember it means like fielding something pitching.
Yeah, fielding independent pitching. It's so his FIP is pretty much league average now on the entire season, which is impressive considering how rough his start was. And he's basically been really, really good now for like the last 8 to 10 weeks. And so FIP is a simple number that's said by baseball insiders, like the players themselves. I've heard a few players mention FIP before, but the guys who know the players that talk about it, a lot of former players will talk about how pitchers use FIP. It's kind of the bottom line number that most pitchers use to gauge how effective they've been at helping their team win baseball games. Most pitchers don't pay attention to ERA from what I've heard. That's not all by any means, but it sounds like the majority of them, when they're looking at just how effective they are at helping their team win, FIP is the number that they look at for the most part. And FIP is a pretty easy calculation that just takes into account strikeouts, walks, and home runs. Usually a FIP stays pretty steady. ERA is pretty volatile. It'll go up and down, but a FIP stays pretty steady throughout a season. And usually whichever way the ERA is, the FIP will stay steady and the ERA will either come up to meet FIP or the ERA will come down to meet FIP. Usually they end up meeting in the middle. Not always, but usually by the end of a season. So you can kind of tell how good a pitcher has been and whether he's had some bad luck. It tries to take a lot of the luck component out of a pitcher's pitching performance. And so ERA is really more to tell a narrative, where FIP is, or I should say ERA tells the narrative of what actually happened in the games in the past, if that makes sense. How many runs did they actually give up? Whereas FIP tells the story of what is likely to happen in the future. And so his FIP has been really good. It's almost a full run lower than his ERA is. And that means that Nelson is probably going to continue to pitch much better than his ERA looks for the rest of the season. Not to say he's great. Ryan looks right now like a decent fourth starter. He is the kind of guy that if you need to go to him in a 7-game, what I mean by a fourth starter is typically I reference starters by if you would want them to pitch a playoff game or not. I don't really want Ryan to be one of my top 3 guys, but if you have to have Ryan be your fourth starting pitcher in a 7-game playoff series to just pitch 1 game, and all your other pitchers get to start 2 games, I'm perfectly content with that. And that you have Ryan Nelson as the fourth or as the 6th starting pitcher on the depth chart when everyone's healthy, assuming just everyone's healthy. That's a really impressive place to be. All right, so
I could have done a sponsored joke there. I missed my chance. I was trying to think.
Now, let's get back to Gilbert Diaz. He has been a really fast riser. Just a year ago, he was only in high A. Just 1 year ago today, he was in high A. For those of you who don't know, the minors go low A, high A, double A, triple A, and then the majors.
I was about to say, what is high A?
Yeah, high A is it's why they say it that way. They should really just do like A, double A, triple A, quadruple A. Make a lot more sense. But
and then B.
B. And I like that. And then so they've got those levels. Now most players spend about 1 full season at minimum at each level. Most players do. Gilbert Diaz was at high A just a year ago. He made the jump in the second half of the season up to double A. And then he started this season at double A. And then he made the jump in the first half. I think he pitched 4 or 5 games at triple A. So he got bumped in the last year all the way from high A to majors. And now he's pitching in the majors. He's got 2 starts in the majors.
That's a big come up.
Yeah, that's super, super fast. That is very unusual that you go from high A to the majors in a calendar year.
It's like when you simulate the MLB the Show.
Yes, that is right. That is like MLB the Show. That is something that doesn't happen very often in real life. And so he's in the majors. And with that said, even though he was a fast riser, he's only 3 months younger than Slade Cecconi. That's kind of nuts. Slade has been pitching for the major league team for about a full calendar year now. And
what do you mean by full calendar year?
So a calendar year versus a season. So This is the second season Slade has pitched for the Diamondbacks, but so if you go back to July 19th of 2023, that would be a full calendar year to today, July 19th, 2024. So
okay.
that's what I mean by Yolber Diaz was at high A 1 year ago today, and he made it all the way from high A to the majors in less than a year. That part's bananas. That's so unusual. I only know one other story like that for a guy who wasn't like a super highly rated prospect, and it didn't end well. But it's not to say Yolber's not going to be great. He looked good in the minors. Not great, but he looked very good. He's a great strikeout pitcher in the minors, and we haven't seen him strike out guys yet.
Are you talking about Greg Oden?
No, that's NBA.
No, we're talking about the major leagues.
Yeah.
The majors.
Yes.
Which used to be a smokestack.
I'm so lost.
I know.
Explain this to me.
Back to the D-backs.
Okay. All right. So yeah, he's only 3 months younger than Slade Cecconi, which is kind of strange, being that Slade has what is kind of referred to in baseball circles as freezer burn. And freezer burn is when it's not like basically Cecconi and Diaz are the same age. In baseball parlance, they're basically the same age, right? He's only 3 months old. 3 months. Slade's only 3 months older than Yolber, but Slade has been around now for 2 seasons, roughly, like two different seasons, and so I wouldn't be surprised if Slade is the better pitcher, has the better career versus Diaz. But who knows? Diaz might have figured something out. But because Slade has been around, even though they're the same age, because Slade has been around for parts of 2 seasons, people are kind of frustrated. He's got freezer burn. Freezer burn is when you get something out of your freezer and it's got all of that ice built up on it, right?
Oh.
That's called freezer burn. And so...
Wait, you get burned by that?
Yeah, I mean, that's just what they call it, freezer burn. And so...
Wait, you can get burned by frozen stuff?
Yes, you can burn it. That's, yes, you can... Your skin can essentially get burned by being frozen.
Can you get frostbite from fire?
Yes, that's essentially what frostbite is your skin burned.
Wait, so like, can you get frostbite from fire?
No, you cannot.
What about really, really hot fire?
Nope.
What about a stovetop?
You could get burned.
Oh.
Yeah, but your skin reacts to it pretty much the same way.
Is it going to roast?
Cold and hot.
Is it going to roast me?
No. I mean, only if you're over it. The fire, I mean.
Oh.
Let's get back to... It's a funky detour, dude.
These are awkward talks we're having.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get back to Yolber Diaz. He's off to a. I just wanted to point out, like, guys develop at different speeds. Slade Cecconi took a very traditional path, made it to the majors at 23 years old. 23 years old. He was in the majors about on his 23rd birthday. Whereas Yolber, who's about the same age as Cecconi, was still pitching at high A when Slade was pitching in the majors, and now they're both pitching in the majors essentially. And
I'm gonna call the major leagues B.
let's not confuse people.
We went from high A to B.
To the B, because short for MLB, the B,
the major Bs,
the B.
The major Bs.
And so
sounds like a hive.
Indeed. And so he's started 2 games now. He's off to a solid start. I actually kind of expected him to be your hot pitcher, but I am sure he had a lack of innings and a lack of strikeouts. He throws pretty hard. He's averaging 96 miles per hour on his fastball, which is pretty cool. Dang. He has gotten pretty lucky so far in his 2 starts, but he has a low strikeout rate, but he also has a really low walk rate. And then his home runs allowed is the part where that's going to catch up with him. He can't pitch like he has and not give up more home runs. That's super unlikely. And anytime that you have a low home run rate allowed, it's going to make you look good. Home runs are the killers for pitchers, which is why it's included in FIP, and hits are not. And so
also why it's included in our who's hot, who's not.
Yeah, the one issue that I see with Yulber going forward is he's pretty much a 2-pitch pitcher. And
what do you mean by 2-pitch pitcher?
so he only throws 2 pitches. I forget what they are. I think a fastball and a slider. He also throws a changeup, I think. No, curveball. But it's really bad. Like it's going to get destroyed at the major league level if he throws that pitch. The hitters are too good. And so he looks like a future relief pitcher because when you only throw 2 pitches, you kind of need 3. So what they'll say a lot, there are some exceptions to this, but pitchers who only throw 2 pitches, it's almost impossible to be a major league starting pitcher because if you are only throwing 2 pitches, that means that hitters only have to be on the lookout for 2 different pitches coming out of your hand. And it's really easy to start to pick up for major league hitters. It's a lot easier to start to pick up on which pitch is being thrown when they release it, when you're only throwing 2 pitches. 3 pitches throws a tough wrinkle in there that makes it much harder to pick up what pitch is being thrown at you. And so a lot of guys who are 2-pitch pitchers, like Spencer Strider, who's amazing, right?
Yeah.
He was a fastball slider guy, and now he is mixing in a curveball as well, I believe, before he got hurt and went on the IL for the season. But he had started to mix in a curveball, and he had been throwing it a lot, and it's been getting better and better. And it's because he knows that he can't survive in the league. He can't be one of the he can't be the best pitcher or one of the very best pitchers in the league for long if he only throws 2 pitches. It's just not going to work. And so he's got to pick up a 3rd pitch. Yulber Diaz is kind of in the same boat. He's got to pick up a 3rd pitch if he's going to last for a while. That said, that he's done this well with 2 pitches so far in the majors does portend to him looking like a great future relief pitcher for the Dbacks, like a fantastic future relief pitcher. So that's something to be on the lookout for. I do want to touch on Montgomery, who I mentioned is returning next week. The Dbacks set their rotation for this weekend. You got Nelson going today. You got Gallen going on Saturday, and then you got Nelson Fott going on Sunday. And so Montgomery will probably start a game in the first half of next week because they're going to have an opening. It's possible they call Slade up if Jordan's not ready, and Slade may get another shot. But I'm curious to see if the few weeks off brings his velo back to his pre-2024 numbers.
Yeah.
Because we've talked about it all season, like his velo being down mile per hour, mile and a half per hour.
I remember you talking about that.
Yeah. And so when Gallen came back, he was throwing harder than ever.
Yeah.
And so hopefully something like that happens. He did, this is a thing. He did sign really late into spring training, and he had a short ramp up. He obviously was frustrated with the way his free agency went, and he probably was not focusing on pitching as much as focusing on the next contract at the time. And he was so frustrated with the whole process that he changed agencies. Now, he's probably not frustrated with the Diamondbacks by any means. That's just the team that ended up signing him. But there have been history of players who signed late into spring training. You look at Blake Snell, who signed with the Giants. He's been horrific, like as bad as. This is the guy who won the Cy Young Award last year, and he's been an absolutely terrible pitcher so far this season. Montgomery has not looked good. I remember years ago, one of the first pitchers who ran into this issue was Lance Lynn, and Lance Lynn signed late into the season, and it was late in the offseason during spring training with just like a couple weeks to go, kind of like Montgomery did. And it was far and away the worst season of his career.
Didn't he win the World Series last year?
Yep.
Jordan Montgomery?
Yes, with the Dbacks, with the Rangers. Yeah,
that's what
he was
I thought.
pitching for the Rangers. Yep. And so I
think that's kind of crazy that he changed teams after he won did they release him or did they?
His contract was up.
Oh.
Yeah.
So they released him?
No, they just didn't re-sign him.
Okay.
Yeah, his contract was up, so he changed teams. And I mean, the D-backs really kind of need him to be good. They don't need him to be great. They just need him to be good. Someone who has been great, though, he was the hot boy.
Eugenio Suarez.
That's right. Yes, he has been crushing it, and I mean crushing it. He has been the most common offender. I don't know this, we didn't go back through, but I'm pretty sure he's been the most common offender on the ice hitters list.
Yeah.
This season.
I think he's been on there more times than anyone on.
Yeah, he might have been on there more times than we made the lists. It's a joke.
I can tell.
Okay. Yeah. And so
Yeah.
I didn't want you thinking about it too hard.
I wasn't.
Okay.
I don't think a lot.
All right. So, by what measuring using OPS as the measuring stick, he's been a top 10 hitter in all of Major League Baseball in the month of July so far. How nuts.
Like, could you explain OPS again?
Yeah,
because
it's just
I always mentioned it on the who's hot, who's not, and
yeah.
I used to understand it, but now I don't really.
So there's OPS is composed essentially of two different statistics. It means on base plus slug. That's what OPS means. On base plus slug. And so what they do is
you think it'd be OBPS?
Yes, maybe. You're not wrong. I'm not going to disagree with you there.
Yeah.
But
not.
You take the on base percentage of a player, so which is just how many, what percentage of times that they come to the plate do they get a hit? Not do they get a hit? Do they reach base on anything but in air? And so there are some exceptions, but that's a quick way to explain it. Is just whether you get on base by a walk, a hit by pitch, or a hit. It goes towards your on base percentage. So say some player has a 350.
Sorry.
350 on base percentage, right? And then you add slug plus slug. And so slug is a little different calculation. So if a player goes 1 for 4, right?
Yeah.
And he hits a double, slug is how many bases do you get per hit? So on average. So it averages how many bases you get per hit. It's a measurement of how good of a power hitter you are. If you hit a lot of doubles and home runs, your slug is going to be really high. If you hit a lot of singles and doubles, your slug is not going to be as high.
So your slug is not very high because you hit a lot of.
I hit a lot of singles.
Yeah.
Yep.
And doubles.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. Some doubles. Usually hustle doubles.
Yeah.
I'm not much of a power hitter. It's so
maybe we could put OPS.
Not in baseball.
Maybe we could put OPS on the stat line for the predictions pod.
Yeah, we can absolutely do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
if you want that, put it in the comments.
So
like this video, subscribe.
So OPS slug is if a player, say for example, hits a double and they go 1 for 4, right, on the night.
Yep.
That's 2 bases they got in 4 plate appearances. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're going to take 2 and you're going to divide it by 4, which is
35.
0.5.
That's what I said.
Yeah, 0.5. So they get half a base every time. They averaged half a base for the night when they came to the plate.
Yes.
And a 500 slug is really good. And so say a guy has a 500 slug with a 350 on base percentage, that gives them, add 350 to 500.
42.
You get 850. But good try.
I was close.
Yes.
Like very close.
And so
Extremely
that's how
close.
OPS works. He's been so good in July that his numbers for the season basically peg him as just a slightly below league average hitter, despite how bad he was in May and the first half of June. That's nuts. He has been so good, just so good. And he, it's a tired talking point on our show, but it's worth repeating because it seems to be happening again. Eugenio Suarez has been a mediocre baseball player, mediocre hitter, pretty much every season of his career through June. The one exception is the year that he hit 47 home runs and got MVP votes. Then all of a sudden something clicks and he turns into a very good to great hitter in the second half of the season, starting July 1.
It's so weird.
It is so sick.
Like, why?
I don't know.
How?
I don't know. I don't know if he needs to warm up, if he needs to get a swing grooved, if he needs, he just needs more reps. I just don't know why that happens. But I guess
it's better than
his
him.
career second half numbers. He has like a OPS plus like 20 points higher than his first half, which is a nutso amount. Like that's
a nutso.
Yes. A 20-point difference is like the gap between a potential all-star and a regular. I mean, it's so insane. And that he does that repeatedly season after season is so bizarre. I've never really seen a guy who is so consistent with that. And so, I expected him to be better. It's impossible to not think that he was going to be better than he was for the first half of the season. But I don't think anyone saw this kind of turnaround coming where he's the top 10 hitter in baseball for 2 weeks and maybe even longer. Who knows? And the fact that he only had, talking about this turnaround, he only had one season prior to 2024 that he had an OPS plus as bad as he did this year. And in that season, his second half was, again, much better than his first. He had an OPS plus of roughly 60 in the first half, but he only put up an OPS plus of about 90 in the second half. And so he had an OPS plus of about 65 so far this season in the first half. And then he has an OPS plus of like 240 so far in the second half of the season. So I don't think he's going to keep this up by any means, but I do think that
we do hope he is.
Yeah, I do. Well, I do think he can be an above league average hitter for the rest of the season going forward, because that's what his track record has always shown, what he does between the first half and the second half. It's so bizarre. And I mean, honestly, like I said, he carried that D-backs offense through those final 13 games.
Yeah.
Heading into the All-Star break, he had, I don't know, I think 1 billion RBI and and just was just smashing the ball everywhere. So that's it. I do want a quick touch on a little bit of trade talk here to wrap it up. For all the improvement that Suarez has made in July, coupled with the fact that his improvement is following a career-long trend of his, I'd still like to try getting a left-handed hitting utility infielder if it's possible. Both Suarez and Marte hit left-handed pitching so much better than right-handed pitching, and having a left-handed hitting utility infielder would pair nicely with them. Newman as a right-handed hitter is kind of redundant as the utility infielder. Not bad by any means. Newman is really good. If that's what we go with, you're not losing anything. So throwing a lottery ticket at the Angels for Luis Guillorme. Have you ever heard that expression? Nope. A lottery ticket is basically some prospect who's like ranked in the 20s, not likely to make it to the majors, but if you're a team who has some mediocre, average-ish kind of player, like mediocre, not average-ish. Average is a starter, but just some mediocre player that's not really necessary to be on your roster for the purpose of winning, which the Angels are not going to win anyway. So pretty much everybody falls into this boat. He's on, he's got 1.5 years left on his contract. He's not going to be a difference maker for the Angels in the future. He's too old to be on the next good Angels team. And so you say, hey, we'll give you some high ceiling, but probably never going to become a Major League Baseball player prospect. Someone who's ranked in the 20s for some team. Just throw them their direction and take them back. I mean, Luis Guillorme was already traded once this season, and he was traded for, I think, just a player to be named later, which is usually lottery ticket kind of players. Like, they're usually kind of nothings. They call them lottery tickets because, like, 1 out of 1,000 times that you trade a player for a lottery ticket, they turn into a useful major leaguer, but usually they don't. And so you just throw a lottery ticket at them. You could possibly swap infielders with the Cardinals, trading Brandon Crawford for Kevin Newman straight up. Both of those players fits the other team's roster better. Moncada, certainly with Suarez's breakout, Moncada from the White Sox is 100% off the table. There's no way. If you are getting Yohan Moncada, it would be to be the full-time starting third baseman, and that's basically not happening now. And even so, these trades are marginal around the edges of the team. And while they'd likely benefit the team slightly, they don't move the needle a whole lot, unless the one exception is
unless it's a little guy who is trying to get his blood drawn. Then they move the needle a lot.
This is true. Oh my goodness! Oh, how dare you! That's a horrible callback. No,
sorry.
Well done. And then
I saw my chance. I thought it'd be.
But I'd still, if I was the team, I would try to make a deal like that. If I was in Hazen's, it's just one of those little things of playing chess instead of checkers, and you never know. Suarez could. I don't think is going to have it, but Suarez could turn back into a pumpkin, and you may still want somebody to take over third base for you at some point. And I'd rather have a left-handed hitter in there to pair with Suarez, keep Suarez in there as a short side platoon. So that's all I was thinking. And then I do want to talk about Jake McCarthy, because Jake McCarthy's been rad. He's been so good for this team.
Jake McCarthy.
Yeah. And I kind of view it as, maybe the D-backs don't, but I view it as he's just raising his trade value higher and higher for this team to get a better return for him at the trade deadline. He's so good, and he's such an awkward fit on this roster with all the left-handed hitting outfielders that they have between and DH. So you got Peterson, you got Thomas, you got Carroll all ahead of him, and then you got Pavin Smith in the minors ready to come up. Not to mention switch hitter Jorge Barosa, Short King.
Short King.
And so
I know a lot about that. I'm pretty short.
You just have a lot of guys, a lot of lefties, and he's just so redundant. And so he could really bring back a useful bullpen arm plus a C prospect most likely. And he might even be able to just bring back a good B prospect or a couple of prospects if you're just training him straight up for prospects. He's got 4 years of control still. Like the D-backs are in a really good spot. They don't need him, and he can make their team better in the future. It's one of those things, it would be in the best interest for the long term of the team to trade him now. His trade value as a solid MLB proven center fielder, acquisition with multiple years of team control will likely never be higher than it is right now. They could get more for Jake McCarthy than he's probably worth to the team. And I would do that if I was them. Just think ahead a couple of seasons and get some more depth. And the team has so much depth that his production can be pretty easily replaced internally. And then I just wanted to go over this. The D-backs, their biggest need is obviously a left-handed relief pitcher. They got Joe Mantiply out there. Their bullpen has been kind of rough in general. Mantiply's been awesome, but they need another lefty. He's their only lefty. And so it's hard to pinpoint which one they'll go get, because there's a gazillion left-handed pitchers, usually right relief pitchers traded at the trade deadline. Realistically, there will probably be 5 to 15 pitchers, left-handed relief pitchers that will change teams.
Is that a prediction?
No.
Okay.
Though I should make it one on our next show.
Yes, you should.
We're going to do it.
We're going to do it.
Relief, I don't know this, but just kind of talking out my butt. Relief pitchers probably make up something like 60% of all MLB players traded at the trade deadline. It's the position that all the contending teams trade for, because losing teams have no need for relief pitchers. And so, because if you're a losing team, what does it matter if you keep a game close late? Just trade them away, get some prospects back so that you can build for next year. So relief pitchers get traded constantly. One guy that D-backs will almost certainly get one. I would be shocked, absolutely shocked, if they don't pick up a relief pitcher, and probably a left-handed relief pitcher. And that said, I'd really love to see them bring back Andrew Chafin. I don't know what, maybe this is not realistic. Maybe there's some bad blood between Andrew Chafin and the D-backs, but he's pitched parts of 8 seasons for the D-backs over 2 different stints already, including he pitched for the D-backs just last season, if you recall. He got traded at the trade deadline last year. He was a D-backs prospect. He played 6+ seasons for the D-backs. And then he got traded, to give you an idea of how often relief pitchers get traded. He got traded at the 2020 trade deadline. And then he got traded at the 2021 trade deadline. And then he got traded at the 2023 trade deadline.
That's
relief pitchers constantly get traded. They're often on 1-year contracts, so you send them somewhere else if your team's not in the hunt, and you get some prospects back for them. And so, he signed last year, heading into the 2023 season again with the D-backs. He was pitching really well, if you remember. And then there was just this really, really strange trade where they sent him to the Brewers for some guy named Peter Strzelecki. And Peter Strzelecki pitched 1 game for the D-backs. It was such a strange deal. It got talked about. I mean, it's kind of one of those, lowish leverage kind of moves, but it got talked a lot as, what are the D-backs doing here, by national media? I couldn't really figure that one out. And he's having a great year for the Tigers so far. He's on the final year of his contract. There are a lot more guys out there like him, though, so I find it unlikely that he's the guy they go get. But it'd be a fun story to bring him back again for the 3rd time to pitch for the D-backs. And that's really kind of it. So what are you looking forward to here as we head into the second half, Phoenix?
Well, I'm looking forward to tomorrow for my jersey. I'm also looking forward to Lourdes and Christian Walker and all of the ice babies or ice pitchers and ice hitters to just get back on track, especially Zach Gallen, because we need him. Because he's a really good pitcher. And I also want I don't want any ice hitters or ice pitchers.
Maybe we need to put a cutoff on there. Like if somebody's not under if somebody's not under 600, they don't go on the ice hitters. Because if you're hitting 600, maybe you don't know this, the league average OPS, I want to say right now, is 703. So if you're at 650, you're below league average, but it's not bad. You got to get into 600. You got to get under 650 for sure, which Walker was. But even that week from Walker is not it's just kind of a meh week. It's not a bad week per se. Yeah, maybe we could do something like that. And so, because we don't want to call out cold players if they have not actually been cold.
Yeah, that's like calling out short guys and be like, no, I don't want
it. And so, I'm looking forward to seeing if Eugenio Suarez continues his career-long trend of smashing baseballs in the second half of the season after having a rough first 3 months.
I'm also excited for the D-backs to be over 500 at the end of the season.
Yes, they're going to have to be at a minimum. And then how many series can they win here coming out of the break? Because they got 6 series coming up that are against very beatable teams for the most part. And they probably need to build themselves a little bit of a cushion, because then you start to get into playing much more difficult teams after that. And their schedule gets a lot harder come August 4th. And so they got to take advantage while they can right now, especially with teams like the Cubs and the Pirates, who are probably going to be trading. Well, Pirates are probably going to be acquiring new players, but you get them before the trade deadline and then again right after the trade deadline. And you got to win those first games. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be a really, really fun second post All-Star break run here. And the next 10 games, 11 games leading up to the trade deadline it's going to be an exciting time to be a baseball fan here leading up to the trade deadline. Trade deadline is always awesome. So stay tuned. We'll be covering any trades that the team makes, as well as possibly any trades that affect the D-backs externally. So like if the Padres make any pickups or the Cardinals kind of discuss a little bit, the Dodgers discuss a little bit about what their competition did, maybe even the Pirates, and how it affects the D-backs' chances of making the playoffs. So
all right.
very cool.
Sorry for kind of the long pod. We usually try to stop at an hour.
Yeah.
Not an hour.
This one definitely went long. No question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably our stupid talks that we had.
There was a lot of filler in this one, unfortunately. Thanks for making it to the end. Please like, comment, subscribe, rate, review, and of course, channel your inner kindergartner.
And share.
Yes. And with that, have a wonderful weekend. We'll see all of you next week.
And let's say hello to Limerick.
Yeah. Limerick,
My little brother.
Take us out.
Take it away.
Journey! Under! 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114, 115, 116, 117,